Coming up, the CDC's warning to the American people regarding the novel coronavirus.
And the epidemic's effect on global markets. All that and more today, Wednesday, February 26th on Evening News.
Hello and welcome to EIV Evening News. I'm Luis Mercado.
And I'm Elizabeth Perkin. We begin with the top stories of the week. Top U.S. public health officials said yesterday to prepare for the possibility of the spread of the coronavirus across the country. Dr. Nancy Minoza, the head of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Disease at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, said in a media briefing, quote, "It's not so much a question of if this will happen anymore, but rather more of a question of exactly when this will happen. Also, how many people in the country will have a severe illness? So far, more than 300 cases have been reported in Italy, 100 cases in Iran, and 57 here in the United States, with more than 80,000 cases worldwide and 2,700 deaths."
The stock market is continuing to plummet as the coronavirus continues to spread across the globe. Monday, the Dow dropped 1,000 points as the outbreak has placed more than 10 cities in Italy on lockdown. Yesterday, the Dow dropped another 800 points, making it the worst two-day loss on record. Many factories are facing product shortages as Chinese suppliers struggle to resume operations as normal.
Two anti-abortion bills failed to advance in the Senate vote. Tuesday, the first votes on the abortion-related bills in Congress were the first this year. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, said, quote, "Every senator will be able to take a clear moral standing before the voting took place," while Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer blasted the effort as a set to show votes and shameless political stunts.
We now go to our political correspondent, Ian Salone, for more on last night's primaries in South Carolina. Ian?
Thanks, Louise. The nation's eyes will be on South Carolina this weekend as the state holds its Democratic primary, the latest in the fiery debate over who will challenge President Trump. The campaign for the Democratic nomination has ramped up in the Palmetto State, with each candidate seeking endorsements before Saturday. The biggest one coming from longtime South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn, sending his support to former Vice President Joe Biden. In a heated debate this week in Charleston, many of the candidates spoke about their electability compared to Senator Bernie Sanders, who has won all three of the previous races on the campaign trail. When commenting on the senator's views of democratic socialism, former Mayor Pete Buttigieg said, "We can't live in the revolutionary politics of the 60s, end quote. There was no clear winner following the debate, so the very diverse state has a lot to decide on Saturday. Polls close in South Carolina at 7 p.m. New immigration figures show a steady decline in legal immigration to the United States. Less than 1 million people, about 940,000 to be exact, have obtained lawful permanent residence in the United States. This is down considerably compared to 2016, when legal immigration was at its highest. At that time, over 1.2 million people obtained a lawful permanent residence. Many are blaming the creation of restrictive immigration laws in the Trump administration for the drop in data, from tighter asylum requirements to outright travel bans. Most recently, the Supreme Court allowed the president to set a wealth test for green card applicants. Under the new rules, immigrants are ineligible for permanent status if they use public benefits such as Medicaid and food stamps. On top of the newly released numbers by the National Foundation for American Policy, experts say the trend will only accelerate. The organization predicts 30% less legal immigration each year, which can lead to a 35% drop in the growth of the U.S. workforce. And reports that Russia may be interfering in the 2020 election to re-elect President Trump may have been overstated. Several officials in the intelligence community told CNN that although they believe Russia is interfering in the upcoming election, they cannot definitively say that it is for the re-election of the president. Essentially, correlation does not equal causation. Although intelligence officials have said that the interference is an issue, it hasn't gone so far as to say that Russia is coordinating an effort to re-elect President Trump. Before, intelligence officer Shelby Pearson told officials in the House of Representatives that Russia is interfering with the election. Her report is now being called misleading and inappropriate by lawmakers and others. Right now, there is no believed effort by Russia to re-elect President Trump, according to National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien. That's all I have, and back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Ian. Coming up, more on the 4-alarm fire in Reading that seriously injured 2 people.
And updates on the President Trump's visit to India after the break.
Camera 1 close up on number 33.
Thanks, Joe. 10 seconds left. Emerson is
Follow the ball, follow the ball.
Hey, we're your roomies, your homies, your new living best.
We live here too.
Thanks.
Action.
Do you have any idea what time it is?
It's time.
7. 7? It would mean a lot to me if you guys watch.
Welcome back. 2 people are seriously injured after a 4-alarm fire broke out early Monday morning. Flames were seen coming out of the windows on the 3rd floor of the building in Reading. The victims are at a Boston hospital in serious condition. The 12-unit building is currently under investigation as fire officials search for the cause. Residents are urging investigators to look at the building's fire alarm system. They claim it has produced false alarm fires over the years.
The Harvard Kennedy School has created a new system to be more gender inclusive with the idea of stickers. This semester, the school provided plastic stickers with 4 options that the students could apply to their name cards: he, him, she, her, they, them, and ze, here. Last week, New York University said students would now be able to indicate their pronouns in the system that provides class rosters and seating charts to faculty members. 39 other schools allow students to indicate their pronouns on course rosters. This comes according to the UMass Amherst Stonewall Center.
A mother and daughter living in East Boston say they are the victims of a hate crime and asking for Boston police to hold their assailants responsible. Ms. Vasquez, as she is identified in the press release, says she and her 15-year-old daughter were violently assaulted on February 15th by 2 white women near the Maverick T station in East Boston for speaking Spanish. Vasquez has lived in East Boston for 5 years and says this is the first time she has experienced this type of violence, but not the first time she's heard of such attacks.
Democratic frontrunner and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is under fire about his comments that he made about Fidel Castro. In an interview with 60 Minutes, he said, quote, "We are very opposed to the authoritarian nature of Cuba, but you know it's unfair to simply say everything is bad. When Castro came into office, you know what he did? He had a massive literacy program. Is that even a bad thing? Even though Fidel Castro did it," end quote. Following this answer, Democratic candidates around the country criticized the senator. Javier Fernandez, a Democratic candidate in the majority Hispanic Senate district, said that Donald Trump will win Florida if Sanders is the nominee. Fellow candidate Pete Buttigieg tweeted, quote, "After 4 years looking on in horror as Trump cozied up to dictators, we need a president who will be extremely clear in standing against regimes that violate human rights abroad. We cannot risk nominating someone who doesn't recognize this," end quote.
We go to our international correspondent, Madison Goldberg, for the latest on the president's visit to India.
U.S. President Donald Trump visited India for the first time this week, alongside First Lady Melania Trump, daughter Ivanka Trump, and son-in-law Jared Kushner. Trump landed in Ahmedabad, the hometown of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The visit comes during a time of civil unrest in the country, with clashes in parts of New Delhi happening ahead of Trump's arrival. The protests left 7 dead after introducing a new law that fast-tracks citizenship for non-Muslim minorities from select countries, which many perceive to be anti-Muslim. The president's visit finished with little clarity on trade and security agreements, and several insults towards his potential Democratic opponents. And about 150 masked protesters set fire to 7 cars in front of the O'Higgins Hotel in Santiago, Chile on Sunday night, the first night of the popular Viña del Mar music festival. Several shops in the area were looted, with 15 people arrested and 23 police officers injured. The act of violence came after 4 months of protests in Chile. The protests started with the rise in metro rates in the capital of Santiago, which turned into demonstrations against inequality at the hands of the government. The unrest specifically lies in the lack of funding for healthcare and education. And former Prime Minister of France, François Fillon, is now going on trial for fraud. Fillon allegedly used public funds to pay his wife and children for work they never actually did. The family is expected to have profited approximately 1.8 million euros off of this endeavor, and the trial is set to last until March 11th. Fillon was once the frontrunner of France's 2017 election, with the presidency ultimately going to Emmanuel Macron. Fillon has denied any wrongdoings. Back to you, Luis.
When we come back, sports correspondent Danielle Finezza on the Staples Center Memorial for the late Kobe and Gianna Bryant.
And later, entertainment correspondent Maria Sato on the new edition of The Bachelor. Is it for seniors? Stay tuned.
Welcome back. We go to sports correspondent Daniela Finezza for this week's top stories.
Thousands of fans said goodbye to Kobe and Gianna Bryant at the Staples Center nearly a month after the tragic helicopter crash. The event was dubbed a celebration of life, showcasing the highlights of Kobe's career and family life. His wife, Vanessa, delivered a touching tribute to her daughter and husband. She emphasized the strong bond between Gianna and Kobe by saying, quote, "God knew they couldn't be on this earth without each other," end quote. Michael Jordan also spoke about Kobe's love for basketball and passion for everything he did. Ticket proceeds from the memorial will be donated to the Mamba and Mambacita Sports Foundation to provide young people with new opportunities through sports. The Philadelphia Phillies have unveiled a new mascot, replacing the iconic Philly Fanatic who has served as the team mascot for the last 40 years. The mascot has been the target of some legal battles regarding copyright leading up to this change. The new Fanatic sports a light blue tail, feathers, new shoes, and stars around his eyes. Tom Burgoyne, the man behind the Fanatic, assured fans that the Fanatic's wild personality will not change. He believes the new costume was a good opportunity for the team to get creative and refresh for the new season ahead. Back to you at the desk.
Mount Clear Pharmaceuticals has reached a settlement with the Attorney General to resolve all opioid-related claims against the company. Over 10 million Americans 12 and older misused opioids in 2018, according to the National Survey of Drug Use and Health. The opioid crisis has been a rising issue across the country over the past several years. Melanalka is just one of the companies involved.
Katherine Johnson, one of the barrier-breaking NASA mathematicians depicted in Hidden Figures, died Monday. An administrator of NASA said, NASA Administrator Jim Bernstein said in a statement, quote, Johnson helped our nation enlarge the frontiers of space, even as she made huge strides that also opened doors for women and people of color in the universal human quest to explore space, end quote. She was 101 years old.
A town in Massachusetts has been named the most charming small town in the country. Big 7 Travel says Stockbridge, Massachusetts is the best small town in America. The travel magazine says, quote, "It looks like something out of a Norman Rockwell painting." The town is known for Rockwell's portrayal of the city during Christmas with its historic squares, inns, local cafe, and preserved homes. We go to entertainment correspondent Maria Sato for the latest on the Weinstein case.
Former film producer Harvey Weinstein was convicted Monday for multiple charges. The verdict is sentenced to 29 years of jail time for third-degree rape and first-degree criminal sexual act. Right after the conviction, he was sent to the hospital reporting chest pain and heart palpitations and stayed until Tuesday. Over 80 women have come forward with accusations against him, which started the Me Too movement.
That's all we have for today. For more on this week's top stories, go to eiveveningnews.com.
Thank you for joining us. From all of us here at Evening News, have a good night.